Hey guys, Fox here. So I took a recent trip to Dallas, Texas with a few of my buddies, and the main attraction was the National Videogame Museum. So I went ahead and took a bunch of footage in here to show you it. So, in the beginning, we have this beautiful display of monitors playing random video games, pictures of video game collections, and these gold painted systems and controllers. It was a really cool, artistic thing to see, and this was at the very entrance of the museum. And here is their little statue, followed by a look at all these old Pong units and arcade games and early systems from the Odysseys, and definitely all the Pong clones. It was pretty cool. And over here, we're going to get to soon, is the very first video game, and that's Space War. And they had the full working cabinet there. Next to it, they had another version of Space War, I believe, but something I haven't seen before. But it was pretty cool. But right in between them was this giant Pong machine that had two giant paddle controllers. It was pretty neat. Some people were playing it. And here we have a cabinet full of Activision boxed games. Really like the Hero one and the Double Dragon. And they had a full wall full of almost every single system that was released with dates and everything. Here is a dev unit cabinet with a Sega CD, a PlayStation. It was really cool to see all these dev pieces. An N64 there, and a bunch of the Game Boy stuff at the bottom. Here we have more dev units, including that big old Dreamcast one, which was pretty interesting to see. The clear Xbox one was real nice, and then we got a bunch of those almost vinyl style games for the computers. Really cool to see all those. We got that huge Lynx dev unit there too. Here we got some cool Tengen stuff. That Super Sketch was pretty interesting. Never seen that, nor the Gemini for that matter. Over here we got a bunch of other games that I was just not familiar with, but those computer Mario games were pretty interesting. I had heard about those before. And check out that Konami Hyperboy. That thing is great. Here is the first Easter egg in Adventure for the 2600. And here is a bunch of early Macintosh games. Really cool boxes for these. Zork, all the Zorks were pretty cool. We got some 3DO stuff. And an American Imitation thing. I did not know what that was. It's pretty cool. We got the Game Genies, Game Sharks. They had a whole cabinet devoted to these little cheat devices. Those were fun. Me and my buddies were enjoying looking at those. A wall of controllers. Really neat to see this. I do love all the controller designs, especially the Sega ones. Those are some of my favorites. More of them. Oh, including that Twist PlayStation one. That one was really odd and weird. Here's a other various different ways to control your games, like the Aviator and the Power Glove. That Batter Up one for the Super Nintendo is pretty cool too. And we got some Gun Cons, of course. The Jogger, I never seen that one. And of course the Power Pad and Samba de Mago. Here's a bunch of handhelds in this room. We got all these Mattel old electronic games, which really neat to see them all in these boxes. Really, really, really cool. Over here we had those tiny arcade cabinets. And here's one of my favorites, of course. This is all the Game Boys. I guess I had to cut out of that real quick, but over here at Game Boy Advance, look at all the e-reader stuff. Very, very neat. Game Boy Micros with the Super Game Boy, all the special edition ASPs. There were so many good ones in Japan too. In this cabinet you had the GameCon, which I've never had the pleasure of playing with, and a Lynx, the Nomad, which was really neat. I saw the Gizmondo, which was pretty unique because that really didn't last very long at all, including the N-Gage there. Down here we had a bunch of the unique Game & Watches and 3DS and some of the more modern handheld stuff. And I was really impressed by this Game & Watch cabinet. All these Nintendo Game & Watches. Really fun to look at. Wish you could play some of them. Game King. Some of this stuff I've never heard of. Cougar Boy. We were laughing at that one. Neo Geo Pocket Colors. Fantastic. This was a really cool booth. This was showing like the video game crash of 1983 and showed like kind of what a store would look like back in the day that was selling a lot of video games. So I had all the Atari stuff there and television, including a little collector. Here's a really cool Atari 2600 kiosk with a game case holder in the bottom. Really neat to see that. That's something really, really cool to see one of these in such fabulous condition. Over here with some vintage computers. They had a whole bunch of them, including the Commodore 64, TI-99. They had like an Atari 800. There were so many neat computers, and they're all working, and you could play with all of them that were set up over here. TRS-80 from Radio Shack. They're all hooked to those retro monitors. Really cool to see. We got a PC Junior here. I like seeing that Mario Brothers punch ball. We got some other computers here that they had in here, including this Bally Z-Grass 32. Never heard of that one before. We also have a Sega SK1100. This was an interesting keyboard. I really like it. We should do vintage keyboards for today's computers. That would be really neat. The Intellivision computer. This was interesting to me because you still needed the Intellivision. You'd plug it in there and slap it in that spot up top. Very cool. The Atari 7800, they had a keyboard for it. I did not know that. This one was really interesting to me, that they had a family basic to turn the Famicom into a home computer. Really kind of cool to hook up that cassette reader and that big keyboard. They had a big Dragon's Lair, kind of like a shadow box thing, so it had all this different games, these collector items with stickers and stuff. And right next to it they had a Dragon's Lair cabinet, and my buddy was playing it, much to his man losing. This is really cool. These are all the patches that you can get when you would send in your completed picture of Atari 2600 games. Those are neat. And here's the creation corner, where they were just showing all kinds of stuff where people would create cool things. They, of course, centered on, like, Minecraft was a big thing there. They also had Doom right there on that TV right there. All these very old, like, creative type PC games up top. Really, really neat. What was really interesting about this Doom that they had playing here was this was modeled after the entire museum. So you were playing in the museum while playing Doom. It was really cool. What was funny was they had a Sega Genesis controller hooked up to it to play. Next, this Donkey Kong whole section was amazing because it mainly centered around Donkey Kong Country, which was one of my first Super Nintendo games. Absolutely loved it. I liked all the knickknacks, all the games in their boxes, the controllers, the VHS promo tapes, that sweet letter jacket right there, and those skateboard decks. Really, really, really neat to see all this stuff I haven't seen before. On that center TV, they had the competition cart playing where you could play that. Very cool. You got all the soundtracks, more swag, if you will, the bags, more skateboard decks. I like the hats too. And then they had the promo tape playing on that TV. Here was like the virtual reality corner. It was centered around early virtual reality type technology, including the Power Glove, a bunch of stuff I really haven't heard of before, especially this one by Atari, Mind Jack. That was pretty interesting. Early Oculus development kit. And this thing, which was really interesting, I did not know what it was. This was kind of the most interesting, yet I wasn't sure why it was here, but it centered around the Action 52 whole debacle and things that was happening here. And they also did a whole cabinet on Cheetahman 2, which I thought was kind of odd. I thought they could have used the space on more interesting things. That's in my opinion. So I don't know. It was kind of odd to see it there. And you could play them too, and they were awful. Now this was really neat. Seeing a Sega Neptune prototype was really cool. It was a system that I was hoping would come out when I was a teenager, but it never did. But seeing one in the flesh was really, really neat. Bunch of cabinets full of interesting stuff. You see all these retro serials, very rare systems like the Hello Kitty Dreamcast, the 500 million PS4, those really cool paint jobs on those PS2s. Those were sold in Japan or Europe or something like that. Coca-Cola Game Gear, really neat. Mountain Dew Xbox. That Iowa Dreamcast disc player was pretty interesting. And the Singer sewing machine with the Game Boy was really cool. All kinds of stuff. They had a bunch of standees on the top of these cabinets, and were showing off all kinds of cool stuff. You had that Star Fox tournament cart, all this peripherals for the Nintendo, rare controllers. You had Earthbound in the box. You had some old Nintendo toys like the grabber hand and stuff like that. Old World Nintendo sign. Virtual Boy. I literally like the Virtual Boy. I should get one sometime. And we had some unreleased games for the Atari 2600. Shigeru Miyamoto stuff. Some weird Mario toys, and they're not sure if they were actually licensed Mario stuff because they looked awfully weird. As you can see, that it's a me, Mario. They had a whole shelf for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, including some signed autographed stuff there. Movie props, those wrenches, the demo tape, and some old Mario Bros. Like toys and stuff that you could get back in the late 80s. Down here was something really cool. I didn't know this, but they had a Maximum Carnage, but it came with a graphic novel and pins and all kinds of stuff. That Gold Microvision Award, that's really neat. And I didn't know that exists. The Elemental Gear Bowl Assassin's case with that special gun con. Really neat. Love that Golden Sun standee. Wish I had that actually. Really cool looking. Some rare Lynxes here. I didn't know there were that many special edition Lynx. Key Games VCS is a rip-off 2600. The Cosmos, which I was not familiar with. Oh, the Atari's 2700 prototype. The Mirai system. I've heard of that one before, but not the other prototype. More standees. They had them all over the place. It's great to look at. Had some rare boxed games up here, like that Magical Chase, Little Samson, Crusader Ascenti, that Halloween Texas Chainsaw Massacre my friend was really digging. They had the Great Kart Nintendo Championships, X-Man, which I was not familiar with. There's some rare N64 and Super Nintendo, including a Stadiums event hanging out there. More of the N64 boxed rare games. And here's some cool Sega items like Snatcher, Kyo Flying Squadron, Outback Joey, rare Sega Genesis game, and a few of the heavy hitting Sega Saturn titles right there. PlayStation, and the gold Punch-Out cart for this is super cool. It's the kiosk for a Game Boy, but it's a giant Game Boy. Really neat. They didn't have the Game Boy attached to it, but they had modded it for a wireless controller so you could play Tetris on it. Really cool. And in the back, they had a really nice arcade. And you can play it. So when you got your admission to the museum, they'd give you 10 tokens so you can go around and play the arcade games if you want. And you can buy more tokens as well. But it was a good simulation of an old 80s, 90s arcade. A lot of fun games in there. I played some Street Fighter. I played Gauntlet. And one of my favorite things to play there was Sunset Riders right there. I played that one. I think we beat it because we just used most of our tokens on it. But it was such a good game. Fun to play that. Alright guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at the National Videogame Museum in Frisco, Texas. It's great to at least visit once. I would highly suggest everybody check it out. Until they expand it or anything like that, it's probably not worth a second trip. Thanks for watching.